The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, filled with the quiet hum of distant stars. Among those stars, the Zeroth Galactic Empire stood as a mighty power. For thousands of years, it ruled the galaxy with pride, controlling hundreds of worlds and countless alien species. Its fleets were massive, its technology unmatched, and its leaders believed that no one could ever challenge their rule. For the Zeroth Empire, everything in the galaxy had already been discovered, conquered or classified until one quiet day, something strange appeared on their long-range scanners. On the observation deck of the Imperial flagship Vraxian, Admiral Vrothakar leaned forward, his 3 black eyes narrowing as he studied the holographic screen before him. The display showed a group of small metallic shapes slowly crossing the border of Imperial space. "What are those?" Vroth asked, his deep voice echoing through the control room. His officers rushed to gather data. They were all members of the Vraxian species, known for their tall, armored bodies and sharp minds. No one dared speak until they had something certain to say. "Unknown origin, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Zren, her voice calm but uncertain. "The hull design doesn't match any known species. The energy readings are unusual. They don't use plasma reactors or dark cores like ours." Vroth's expression darkened. "How can that be? Every civilization within this sector reports to us. There are no unknowns left, unless, sir," another officer said softly. "They are from beyond the map systems." The Admiral turned slowly toward him. "Beyond the mapped systems? You mean from the unclaimed spiral arm?" "Yes, Admiral." Vroth's curiosity grew. The unclaimed spiral arm was a mysterious region, full of young stars and unexplored worlds. For centuries, the Empire had ignored it, believing no intelligent life could exist there. And yet now something had come from that direction, something new. "Open a channel," Vroth commanded. "Let us greet our visitors properly." The communications officer tapped the console, sending a wide-band signal to the strange ships. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Vrothakar of the Zeroth Galactic Empire. You are entering Imperial space without permission. Identify yourselves immediately." There was a long pause. The crew waited in silence. Then suddenly the speakers came alive with a sound none of them expected. Laughter. It wasn't cruel or mocking, just simple, cheerful laughter. The entire command deck froze in confusion. "Hello there," a voice spoke after the laughter died down. "This is Captain Reed of the United Earth Fleet. Sorry if we wandered into your territory. Our navigation system is still trying to figure out your star maps." Vroth blinked. The translator converted the strange language into his own tongue, but the tone remained light and friendly. "You are trespassing in Imperial territory," he said firmly. "State your purpose." "Purpose?" Captain Reed replied. "Well, we were just exploring. Taking a look around the galaxy. Meeting the neighbors. Didn't expect such a warm welcome." The crew of the Vraxian exchanged nervous glances. The humans' relaxed attitude was completely alien to them. No one ever spoke so casually to an Imperial admiral. Empires usually made others bow before them. Yet this Captain Reed sounded like he was chatting over coffee. Vroth's voice grew colder. "You are addressing a representative of the Zeroth Galactic Empire. You will speak with respect." "Of course, Admiral," Reed said cheerfully. "Respect is important. You've got quite an impressive empire here. Beautiful ships, by the way. Look like something out of a museum painting." Some officers gasped. That comment sounded like an insult, though Reed didn't seem to mean it that way. Vroth's jaw tightened. "Are you mocking us?" "Mocking? No," Reed said quickly, laughing again. "We just admire the craftsmanship. Our ships are more practical, I guess. Not much to look at, but they get the job done." Vroth leaned back in his chair, feeling both irritated and puzzled. These humans didn't seem to understand who they were dealing with. "Transmit images of their ships," he ordered. The holographic screen shifted, showing several small gray vessels moving in tight formation. They looked crude compared to Imperial warships. Uneven surfaces, mixed materials, and no sign of energy armor. Vroth almost laughed himself. "These are explorers," he muttered. "They look like cargo freighters." The officers around him nodded. The human ships appeared primitive. No plasma cannons, no graviton shields, no cloaking arrays. To the Empire, they looked like space junk. Vroth allowed a small smile. "Prepare a warning shot. Let's remind them whose space they've entered." A powerful pulse cannon charged up beneath the flagship. It glowed blue, ready to fire. The Admiral raised his clawed hand, then brought it down sharply. Fire! A beam of energy shot across the void, lighting up the stars. It passed just a few kilometers ahead of the human fleet, a display of strength meant to frighten. Inside the human flagship Aurora, Captain Reed watched the beam flash by. The crew stared at the glowing line on their screens. Then someone chuckled. Then another joined in. Soon the entire bridge was laughing. "Wow," said Lieutenant Ramos, wiping a tear from his eye. "That was close." "Guess they mean business," Reed smiled. "At least they're polite enough to miss on purpose." The laughter continued for a few more seconds before Reed straightened in his chair. "All right, folks. Stay calm, no sudden moves. Let's see how our new friends react." The human fleet didn't raise shields or return fire. Instead, they simply held their position. A new transmission was sent to the Empire's flagship. Roth's communication screen flickered again. Captain Reed appeared, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Nice fireworks, Admiral. You guys do birthdays too?" The command room fell silent. Every alien officer turned toward their admiral in shock. Did this human just joke about a plasma shot? Roth's voice trembled with disbelief. "You find this amusing? We could destroy you with a single strike." Reed tilted his head. "Maybe, but what would that prove? We're just travelers. We didn't mean any harm. Travelers?" Roth repeated slowly. "You cross into Imperial space without permission, and when warned, you laugh?" "Well," Reed said with a shrug, "it's better than crying, right?" For the first time in centuries, Admiral Roth had no words. Every species they had conquered had shown fear or anger when faced with the Empire. But these humans, they smiled. They joked. They treated a deadly situation like a friendly misunderstanding. Roth ended the transmission abruptly and turned to his officers. "What kind of species are they?" "Unclear, Admiral," said Zren quietly. "Their technology is below Imperial standards, but their behavior is unpredictable." "Unpredictable?" Roth repeated. "They are foolish." Yet deep inside, a small seed of uncertainty grew in his mind. Something about their confidence bothered him. No one laughed at the Empire, not unless they knew something others didn't. He ordered, "Keep our weapons locked on them, but do not fire again until my command. I want to know everything about these humans. Scan their ships, analyze their energy patterns, and search all archives. I want data." As the officers rushed to obey, Roth stood by the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The human fleet drifted peacefully, their lights blinking softly in the dark. Laughing at an admiral, he muttered to himself, "What kind of madness is this?" Meanwhile, on the Aurora, Captain Reed watched his crew working calmly. Despite being surrounded by an enormous alien fleet, no one looked afraid. "Captain," said Ensign Liu, "they're scanning us heavily." "Let them," Reed replied. "They'll be disappointed when they realize how boring we are." The crew laughed again, easing the tension. Reed knew that fear could break discipline faster than any enemy weapon. Laughter, on the other hand, kept people together. It reminded them they were still human, even out here, surrounded by aliens. He leaned back in his chair, sipping his cold coffee. "All right, people. Let's keep an open channel, but maintain a respectful distance. We don't want to start a war on our first day meeting new neighbors." As the Aurora floated silently among the stars, Reed couldn't help but smile. Humanity had come a long way from their small blue planet. They had faced their own struggles, wars, disasters, and endless challenges. But every time they had survived. And now, as they met a powerful empire for the first time, they did what humans always did best. They laughed. Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Roth received the final report from his scanners. "Admiral," said Zren hesitantly, "our readings show something strange. Their technology doesn't match their appearance. Their energy cores are unique, efficient, compact, but stable. It seems they're hiding something." Roth's eyes narrowed. Then the laughter was not foolishness. It was confidence. The realization sent a chill through him. He didn't know what kind of people these humans were. But one thing was certain. They were not ordinary. As the two fleets stared at each other across the endless void, one side watched with pride and power, the other with calm smiles and laughter. And so began the first meeting between the mighty Galactic Empire and the strange, fearless species called humans, a meeting that would change the galaxy forever. The deep silence of space continued to stretch between the two fleets. On one side floated the massive ships of the Zeroth Galactic Empire, their black hulls glowing with energy lines like molten rivers. On the other side, the human fleet remained still, small, gray, and unimpressive to the naked eye. For a long time, neither side moved. The tension grew heavier than gravity itself. Inside the Imperial flagship Vraxian, Admiral Vroth Akar stood before the grand holographic table. His long claws tapped against the metal surface, echoing in the command room. Around him, dozens of officers waited nervously for orders. "What do we know about them?" Vroth asked, his voice low but filled with power. Lieutenant Zren stepped forward with a data pad. "Their ships are made of a titanium alloy unknown to us, Admiral. Their engines emit low radiation but generate stable thrust. Their power source is unusual. It's not plasma, not fusion, not dark matter. We can't identify it," Vroth frowned. "Unidentified technology? From a species we've never heard of?" "Yes, Admiral. It seems they use something close to controlled matter conversion, but simplified, efficient. Vroth repeated with disbelief. "Those small things? Impossible." Zren hesitated. "And yet, sir, it is true." The Admiral turned away, looking out the wide window of the bridge. In the distance, the human fleet floated calmly. Their lights blinked in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat in the dark. "They do not move," Vroth muttered. "They do not raise shields. They do not even prepare for defense," Zren nodded. "Perhaps they do not understand the danger." Or, Vroth said slowly, perhaps they understand it too well. The thought unsettled him. He had seen many species before, some proud, some foolish, but none had ever laughed at the Empire's power. It was not something his mind could easily explain. "Admiral," said Commander Thek, one of his most loyal officers, "shall we destroy them now? They are trespassers and their arrogance must be punished." Vroth considered. The old pride of the Empire told him to crush them immediately, to make an example. But curiosity whispered something else. Who were these humans really? How could they laugh under threat of annihilation? "No," Vroth said finally. "Not yet. I want to test their response. Prepare a controlled strike, something that will not destroy but will—" "Warn," Commander Thek saluted. "As you command, sir." Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Aurora, the mood was far lighter. The crew sat at their stations, chatting quietly. The alien fleet still surrounded them, their giant ships shining like mountains in the void, but no one seemed afraid. Captain Reed stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. He looked calm, though his mind was sharp and alert. "Any change in their movement?" he asked. Lieutenant Ramos checked his monitor. "None, sir. They're just sitting there scanning us like crazy." "Good," Reed said. "Let them look. Maybe they'll find something interesting." The crew laughed softly. Even in tense moments, humans had a strange habit of using humor to stay focused. Fear never helped anyone think clearly. Reed turned to the young communications officer, Liu. "Send another message to their flagship. Be polite." "Yes, Captain." Liu opened the channel. "Zeroth Empire Fleet, this is Captain Reed of the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace and curiosity. We don't want conflict. Repeat, we are peaceful explorers." The message was transmitted. A minute passed. Then the alien voice replied, cold and deep. "Your presence here violates Imperial law. You will surrender your ships for inspection." Reed sighed. "Surrender, huh? They do love their rules," Ramos chuckled. "What do we do if they try to board us?" "We do what humans always do," Reed said with a grin. "Stay polite, smile, and make sure the coffee's hot." The crew laughed again, easing the tension. But deep inside, Reed was already planning. He knew diplomacy could fail quickly in space. The Empire might see their calmness as weakness. That could lead to trouble. Still, he had faith in his people and his ship. Back on the Vraxian, the energy fields pulsed as the Empire's fleet prepared a show of strength. 10 battleships aligned in a perfect line, their plasma cannons charging. The stars around them flickered from the power surge. "Target the nearest human ship," Vroth ordered. "Fire a precision shot near their engines." Thek nodded. "Ready to fire, Admiral." "Do it." The plasma beam roared through the void, glowing like a comet. It passed dangerously close to the Aurora, bright enough to make the human crew shield their eyes. Alarms beeped briefly, but no damage was done. "Whoa," Ramos said. "They're serious now." Reed smiled faintly. "Yeah, they're trying to scare us." "Should we respond, sir?" Leo asked. "Of course," Reed said. "But not with weapons." He walked up to the comms console, leaned toward the camera, and smiled. Admiral Vroth, nice shooting. That almost tickled our engines. You have good aim. Then he leaned back casually, folded his arms and said, but if that's your idea of saying hello, we might need to work on your manners. The bridge crew laughed quietly again. The message reached the Vraxian. The command room fell silent. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward the Admiral. Some officers looked frightened. Others simply confused. He praised our shooting, one whispered, and called it a tickle, another added in disbelief. Admiral Vroth's jaw tightened. They are mocking us again. Admiral, Zren said carefully, perhaps it is not mockery. Maybe it is their way of speaking. No, Vroth said firmly. It is arrogance. He turned sharply to his weapons officer. Prepare for full combat. I want every ship ready. They will learn respect. The Imperial fleet began to move into attack formation. Massive engines burned blue as dozens of ships aligned into strategic positions. The entire sector shimmered with energy waves. Drones activated, and targeting systems locked onto the small human vessels. Inside the Aurora, alarms detected the shift immediately. They're forming an attack pattern, Ramos warned. Reed nodded. Expected. Stay calm. He opened a private channel to his fleet. All ships maintain formation. Do not fire unless fired upon. Repeat, no aggression. Defensive systems on standby. Yes, sir, replied the other captains. The Aurora's bridge fell quiet for a moment. Outside, the Empire's ships glowed brighter. The air on the human ship felt heavier, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Reed turned to his crew. All right, people. Time for one of humanity's oldest tricks. What's that, sir? Liu asked. Confuse them. As the Empire's targeting systems tried to lock onto the human ships, strange readings appeared on their scanners. The human fleet started to shimmer and shift slightly. One moment they appeared in one spot. The next moment their signals jumped a few kilometers away. Admiral, Zren shouted. Their ships are phasing. Our sensors can't maintain a lock. What? Vroth roared. Impossible. It looks like short-distance teleportation, but it's not consistent. Their positions keep changing. The Admiral's eyes widened. How? Their technology cannot be that advanced. But it was. The humans were using quantum drift drives, a risky but powerful navigation system that allowed short micro-jumps through space. It had been unstable for years, but human engineers had learned to stabilize it. Barely. Every time the Empire tried to aim, the human ships would flicker and reappear somewhere else perfectly coordinated. It was like trying to shoot smoke. Admiral, Thek said, they are toying with us. Vroth clenched his fists. Then fire everything. All ships, attack! The Empire's fleet unleashed a storm. Plasma beams, missiles, and energy bolts filled the stars. Explosions lit the dark, turning the battlefield into a sea of light. Yet the human ships danced through it all, moving gracefully, dodging with ease. Their laughter echoed through open comms again. The Empire's channels filled with human voices joking and cheering. Almost got us that time. Nice shot, aliens. Try the other side. Bet you can't hit us twice in a row. The alien crews couldn't believe it. They had never faced enemies who joked during battle. To them, it was terrifying. On the Aurora, Captain Reed watched calmly as his ship slipped through the chaos. Every movement was precise, every dodge planned. His crew worked like a single mind, focused yet smiling. Sir, Ramos said, they're losing their formation. Reed nodded. Good, let them. We'll hold ours. Then he looked out the main window, eyes calm but sharp. They think power is everything. Let's show them that courage and teamwork matter more. Back on the Vraxian, Admiral Vroth's heart pounded. The sensors screamed with errors. Every time his ships fired, the humans vanished from the target zone. His fleet's perfect discipline began to crumble. Officers shouted over each other, confusion spreading like fire. Admiral, they're behind us. No, they're to our left. Shields at 40%. Enough, Vroth thundered. Cease fire. All ships cease fire. The battlefield went silent again. The human fleet drifted peacefully, their ships unharmed. On their comms, laughter could still be heard. Vroth stared at them, speechless. In that moment, for the first time in his long career, he felt something new. A sense of doubt. They should be dead, he whispered. How can they laugh while surrounded by death? Lieutenant Zren looked at him quietly. Perhaps, Admiral, they laugh because they are not afraid. Vroth turned slowly to her, his eyes wide. For a moment no one spoke. Then softly he said, Then we are not fighting fools. We are fighting something far more dangerous. And out there, between the stars, the humans floated calmly, smiling in the face of power. The galaxy was quiet once again, but only for a moment. The calm before the storm felt like the slow inhale before a shout. Both fleets hung in the dark, motionless and waiting, one full of pride, the other full of quiet confidence. Inside the Imperial flagship Vraxian, Admiral Vroth Akar stood in silence. His sharp eyes glowed faintly under the dim lights of the command deck. The faces around him were pale and uneasy. The laughter of the humans still echoed in their minds. He had seen many wars. He had faced rebellions and invasions, but he had never faced an opponent that laughed while staring down death. To him, the humans' laughter was unnatural, even frightening. "Status of the fleet?" he asked finally. Lieutenant Zren straightened quickly. "All ships are back in position, Admiral. Damage minimal, though morale is low. Many crews are unsettled by the human transmissions." "Unsettled?" Vroth repeated sharply. "They are warriors of the Empire. They do not get unsettled." Zren lowered her eyes. "Yes, Admiral." Vroth turned to the main display. The human fleet, tiny, fragile-looking vessels, floated peacefully among the stars. They made no attempt to flee or surrender. Their ships formed a loose circle, lights blinking softly like a constellation. "They mock us," said Commander Thek, fists clenched. "We should destroy them now." Vroth said nothing. His mind was a storm of logic and doubt. Part of him wanted to crush them, to prove that no one could face the Empire without fear. But another part, smaller, quieter, whispered that something was not right. He had seen their ships move. The way they avoided every shot with perfect timing, the way they used strange bursts of energy that made them flicker out of sensor range. That was no accident. It was skill, precision, and maybe technology beyond what he understood. "They are not simple," Vroth muttered. "They hide their strength." "Then let us uncover it," Thek said eagerly. Vroth nodded slowly. "Prepare full engagement. No more warning shots. I want to see how they handle real fire." Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Aurora, the crew prepared in silence. Captain Reed stood in front of the main screen, hands behind his back. His calm face showed no trace of fear. Around him, his officers worked efficiently, their movements quick but relaxed. "Enemy ships are powering weapons again," said Lieutenant Ramos. "They're lining up for a full attack." "Expected," Reed replied simply. "They're proud, and pride rarely listens." He turned toward the communications officer, Liu. "Any response to our last message?" "None, sir. They've gone quiet." "I think they're done talking," Reed sighed. "That's a shame. They seemed like nice people under all that armor." The crew chuckled softly. The captain smiled faintly, knowing that even a little laughter kept the tension away. He stepped closer to the window. The alien fleet filled the screen, massive ships glowing like floating cities. It was a sight that would have terrified anyone else, but to Reed it was simply another challenge. "All right," he said calmly. "Activate quantum drift drives. Defensive patterns Alpha 7 through Delta 2. Let's dance." The crew moved instantly. The lights dimmed slightly as the Aurora and its sister ships powered their special drives. These engines were humanity's greatest secret, a combination of quantum physics and adaptive AI that allowed microjumps through space. "Dangerous, yes, but incredibly effective. Quantum drives ready," Ramos said. "Then hold position," Reed ordered. "Let them make the first move." Across the stars, the Zeroth Empire fleet opened fire. The darkness lit up as hundreds of plasma beams and ion bursts streaked across space. The human fleet vanished in flashes of light, reappearing thousands of meters away. Each time, the alien targeting systems lost lock and the next shot hit nothing but empty space. "Impossible," cried Thek on the Vraxian. "They're teleporting!" Zren shook her head. "No, sir. The readings suggest micro-warp jumps, short bursts of controlled space folding, but they're doing it faster than any known system can handle." Vroth clenched his fists. "That technology shouldn't exist. They're just a young species." "Perhaps youth is their advantage," Zren said softly, but the Admiral barely heard her. His focus was on the humans. Their tiny ships darted around the Imperial fleet like fish around whales. Every time the Empire's cannons fired, the humans slipped aside, laughing over open channels. One voice came through clearly, Captain Reed's. "Nice try, Admiral. Bit to the left next time." Thek's claws dug into the table. "He mocks you openly, sir." "Yes," Vroth growled. "And yet I cannot hit him." The battle turned chaotic. Imperial ships tried to regroup, but their formations broke under confusion. Human vessels used short bursts of light to blind sensors, then reappeared behind enemy ships, scanning their systems before vanishing again. They did not destroy. They observed. To the Empire, it looked like a game, but to the humans, it was strategy. They were learning everything about their opponents, their weapon types, shield frequencies, communication channels. After an hour of this strange battle, the Empire had fired thousands of shots. The humans had fired none. "Admiral," Zren said at last, "our energy reserves are falling. This cannot continue." Vroth's tail twitched in frustration. "They are toying with us. They want us to tire ourselves." "Yes, sir," she agreed. "That seems to be their plan." Vroth turned toward the main display again, staring at the small ships that refused to fight. His pride burned, but his instincts whispered caution. "Open a channel," he ordered suddenly. Zren obeyed. The humans appeared on screen. Captain Reed smiling as if nothing unusual had happened. "Ah, Admiral. Still awake? You've got stamina, I'll give you that." Vroth ignored the humor. "You mock us, yet you refuse to fight." "Why?" Reed tilted his head. "Fight. We're explorers, not conquerors." "You fired first, remember?" "You entered Imperial space," Vroth snapped. "That is invasion," Reed chuckled softly. "If we were invading, you'd know. But we're just saying hello. You know, the friendly kind." Vroth's eyes narrowed. "You call this friendly?" Reed smiled faintly. "We didn't destroy your ships. We could have aimed at your reactors during your last volley. We didn't." The alien command room went silent. Zren's eyes widened. "Admiral." "He's telling the truth. Their ships had perfect firing angles several times. They never took the shot." Vroth turned back to Reed. "Why?" Reed shrugged. "Because we're not here to start wars. We've had enough of those back home. We came to explore, not conquer." Vroth studied him. For the first time, he saw not arrogance, but calm confidence. These humans were not reckless fools. They were strong enough to win, but wise enough to avoid unnecessary harm. "Then why do you laugh?" Vroth asked quietly. "When threatened with death, why do you laugh?" Reed's eyes softened. "Because fear gives power to others. Laughter takes it back." For a moment, neither spoke. The stars seemed to hold their breath. Then Reed said gently, "We don't mean you harm, Admiral. But if you attack again, we'll defend ourselves, and we won't miss next time." The communication ended. The silence that followed was heavy. Commander Thek stepped closer. "Admiral, we cannot let this insult stand." "We must strike now." Vroth remained quiet. His mind raced with thoughts. The humans had every chance to destroy him and chose not to. That wasn't weakness. That was control. He looked at Zren. "Prepare the fleet to retreat to secondary coordinates. I want full analysis of their weapons and drives." "Retreat?" Thek exclaimed. "Admiral, the Council will see this as defeat." Vroth turned slowly, his eyes hard. "It is not defeat to learn. It is defeat to die without understanding." Thek fell silent. As the Imperial fleet began to pull back, the human ships didn't pursue. Instead, they simply floated in formation, their lights glowing like stars. One of the human ships sent a small signal, music. It was soft, gentle, and carried across the comm channels. The alien officers listened in shock. They had never heard such sounds before, melodies filled with emotion. "What is that?" Zren asked quietly. Vroth listened. "It is..." He struggled to find the word. "It is beautiful." On the Aurora, the humans smiled as their music played through open space. "Think they'll calm down?" Ramos asked. "Maybe," Reed said. "If not, at least we gave them a tune to remember us by." The crew laughed softly. The battle had ended, but the message had been clear. Humanity didn't need to roar to prove its strength. Sometimes a smile and a laugh were stronger than any weapon. As the human fleet turned away from the border, Reed stood quietly by the window, watching the distant lights of the Imperial ships fade into the stars. He knew this was only the beginning. The Empire had seen humanity's face, calm, fearless, and smiling. And once curiosity replaced fear, there would be no going back. "Prepare course for deep space jump," he ordered. "Let's head home." The Aurora's engines hummed softly, glowing blue as the fleet aligned, and as they vanished into the darkness, their laughter echoed one last time across the stars, warm, human, and unforgettable. The stars had returned to silence. After the strange battle between the Zeroth Empire and the human fleet, space once again became calm. Yet in that calm, Something had changed forever. On the Imperial flagship Vraxian, Admiral Vroth Akar stood before the main screen, watching the empty void where the human ships had disappeared. He had not ordered pursuit. Instead, he had ordered study. For days, his science teams worked endlessly. They examined every bit of data from the encounter, the human ship movements, the sudden energy jumps, even the sound of their laughter. The laughter had become a mystery all on its own. Many officers said it haunted them, not because it was cruel but because it carried confidence. It made them feel small but not by force and by understanding. Commander Thek was not pleased. "Admiral, we should have destroyed them when we had the chance," he said during the meeting. "Now they will think the Empire is weak." Vroth looked at him calmly. "Perhaps they already know strength that does not need to shout." Thek frowned. "You sound as if you admire them." Vroth did not deny it. "Perhaps I do. We fight to prove our power. They laugh because they already know theirs." Thek said nothing more. He could not understand. Far away aboard the human flagship Aurora, Captain Reed sat in the briefing room with his officers. Around the circular table floated holographic maps of the region they had entered, once known as the Zeroth Imperial Border. Lieutenant Liu tapped on the display. "The Empire hasn't followed us, sir. Their ship stopped at their borderline. Seems like they're just watching," Reed smiled. "Good. Maybe they're starting to think instead of shoot." Lieutenant Ramos leaned forward. "You think they'll contact us again?" "I think curiosity always wins," Reed said simply. "Even among empires." The door slid open and the communication alert blinked. An incoming transmission. "Speak of the stars," Reed murmured. "Patch it through." The holographic display shifted and the image of Admiral Vroth appeared, tall, scaled, his eyes sharp but calmer than before. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy but not hostile. Finally, Vroth said, "Captain Reed, I have been studying your methods." Reed smiled lightly. "And what do you think?" "I think your kind is strange," Vroth replied honestly. "You laugh when faced with death. You refuse to fight when threatened. You treat war like a game." Reed chuckled softly. "We don't treat it like a game, Admiral. We treat it like the last thing we want. But if we must face it, we face it on our terms." "Your terms?" "Yes, calm, clever, and alive. Fear makes people foolish. Laughter clears the mind." Vroth tilted his head, studying the man. "Your species conquered fear?" Reed shook his head. "No, we just stopped letting it control us." The alien admiral sat silently, processing the answer. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "I wish to meet." Reed raised an eyebrow. "In person?" "Yes," Vroth said. "Our people have never spoken face to face. It is time to end that." Reed nodded slowly. "Agreed." 3 days later, a neutral meeting point was arranged, a small uninhabited moon orbiting a cold blue star. The moon had no atmosphere, only rock and dust, but both sides built temporary domes of air and light. From above, it looked like 2 bubbles on the gray surface, one glowing silver for the humans, the other golden for the Empire. Captain Reed arrived first with a small escort. He wore his dark navy uniform, simple but dignified. As he stepped through the airlock, he could see the alien dome in the distance, its surface shimmering like glass. "Are you nervous, sir?" Liu asked beside him. Reed smiled. "Always. That's how I know I'm still alive." A few minutes later, a group of aliens approached from the other dome. At their front walked Admiral Vroth, tall and proud, wearing armor that shimmered with faint light. Behind him were 2 officers, Thek and Zren. Both sides stopped at equal distance, the air between them still and cold. Vroth spoke first. "So these are humans," Reed grinned. "In the flesh." The Admiral's gaze moved across them. Strange creatures with soft skin, small eyes, and quick movements. They looked fragile, yet their posture, their calm eyes, and their quiet smile spoke of something more. Unbreakable will. "Why do you travel so far from your world?" Vroth asked. "To learn," Reed answered simply, "and to meet those who think the universe belongs only to them." Vroth's eyes glimmered. "You mean us?" Reed nodded politely. "You're not the first empire we've met that thought it ruled the stars. You probably won't be the last, but we prefer to make friends before enemies." Zren looked curious. "And if friendship fails?" Reed's smile softened. "Then we remember how to defend ourselves." Thek stepped forward, eyes burning. "You humiliated the Imperial fleet. Reed raised an eyebrow. Humiliated? I thought we just danced. Vroth gave a low growl that might have been a laugh. You have an interesting way of seeing things, Captain. Perspective is everything, Admiral, Reed replied. The two groups walked together toward a circular chamber built for the meeting. Inside, long tables and transparent walls gave a full view of the stars. For hours they talked. Vroth's questions came fast, about human history, technology, and the strange idea of laughter during war. Reed answered each one patiently, sometimes with humor, sometimes with simple honesty. He told them about humanity's long struggles, how they fought each other for centuries, learning the hard way that fear only led to destruction. He explained how humor became a tool, not for mocking others, but for keeping hope alive. When we laugh, Reed said, we remind ourselves that we're still human, no matter how dark the situation gets. Zren seemed fascinated. You laugh even when afraid? Especially then, Reed said. It tells fear it can't win. Thek muttered. Strange creatures. Reed looked at him kindly. Maybe, but it works. Vroth listened quietly through it all. He was not used to such openness. In his culture, pride and silence were strength. Yet here were these humans, open, honest, even playful, and somehow it made them seem stronger, not weaker. After the meeting, Vroth stood outside under the stars. The surface of the moon was silent except for the soft hum of machines. Captain Reed joined him. You still don't trust us, Reed said gently. Vroth looked up at the sky. Trust is not easily given among my kind, but you have made me curious. Curiosity is a good start. Vroth turned his eyes toward the distant light of Earth on the star map they had shown him. Your world, small yet loud in spirit, Reed smiled. That's us. I do not understand how such a small species could face death and still smile. Reed looked at him. Because we've been close to extinction before. When you've nearly lost everything, you learn to value the simple things. A smile, a joke, a breath. Vroth was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, You remind me of something our ancestors once believed. That laughter was the sound of life refusing to surrender. Reed nodded. Sounds like your ancestors were wise. Perhaps, Vroth said softly. But somewhere we forgot. The human captain placed a hand over his chest. Then maybe that's what we came here for and to remind you. Vroth looked at him with new eyes. Not as a rival, not as a threat, but as something rare in the universe, a kindred spirit. The next day, both fleets left the moon. The Empire returned to its core worlds, but not with anger or shame. Instead, they carried back stories of the laughing humans who fought without hate. Whispers spread across the Imperial ranks. Stories of ships that danced between plasma fire and captains who spoke like philosophers. Many laughed at the idea, but a few began to wonder. Meanwhile, on the Aurora, the crew prepared for their next journey. Liu asked, Do you think we'll meet them again? Reed smiled. Oh, definitely. Curiosity never sleeps, Ramos chuckled. And if they come back angry? Then, Reed said with a grin, we'll just have to make them laugh again. The bridge filled with soft laughter as the ship powered up. Outside, the stars shone bright, and somewhere out there, an admiral of the Zeroth Empire looked toward the same stars, and for the first time in many years he smiled. The galaxy had grown quieter since the first meeting between humans and the Zeroth Galactic Empire. The once tense border region was now calm, but the memory of the laughing humans lingered in the minds of Imperial officers. Admiral Vroth Akar walked across the command deck of the Vraxian, studying the star maps. Something had changed in him. He had expected to face fear, resistance, and submission when encountering a new species. Instead, he had faced confidence, humor, and strength hidden in simplicity. Zren approached him, datapad in clawed hands. Admiral, reports are coming in from the border fleets. Sensor anomalies continue. They're moving through unmapped regions but leaving no trace of aggression. Yet, some fleets report feeling uncertainty, even respect. Vroth's eyes narrowed. They do not fight us, yet they command attention. That is troubling. Yes, Admiral. Their influence spreads not by force but by presence. Vroth remained silent, thinking. Humans were not ordinary. Their small ships, modest technology, and casual smiles hid something deeper. Courage, creativity, adaptability, and perhaps the most dangerous skill of all, the ability to inspire. Far across space, aboard the human flagship Aurora, Captain Reed and his crew were finishing routine scans of a newly discovered star system. It was a quiet sector, far from any major civilization, yet they had found signs of energy readings that puzzled even their advanced instruments. Lieutenant Ramos spoke first. "Captain, there's something unusual in this system. Energy spikes, small but rapid. They don't match any known natural phenomena." Reed studied the data. "Could it be alien activity?" "Possibly," said Liu, "but no communications detected. No structures either, just energy." Reed leaned back in his chair. "Then we investigate. Carefully." Unbeknownst to either side, a larger threat had been approaching. A massive fleet, long thought extinct, had returned from the far reaches of the galaxy. The Zerth Collective, a species that consumed planets to fuel their engines. Entire star systems had fallen silent before their advance. Sensors from both the Imperial and human fleets detected the movement almost simultaneously. Reports came in quickly, hundreds of ships larger and faster than anything known. Their weapons were devastating, able to wipe out planetary defenses in minutes. Admiral Voroth ordered immediate preparation.
"All fleets mobilize."
This is no longer about borders. This is survival. The humans received word through long-range communication. Reed reviewed the reports with his officers. "The Zerth are approaching," he said calmly. "We've faced dangerous situations before. This one will require every skill we have." Ramos shook his head. "They'll destroy us, sir. Look at those numbers." Reed smiled faintly. "Numbers mean little if you fight smart. Remember, courage, teamwork, and laughter." Liu blinked. "Laughter?" "Always," Reed said. "It reminds people why they fight, and it gives strength to those who have none." The first encounter happened in a remote star system, a cluster of young suns surrounded by asteroid belts. The Zerth fleet emerged from hyperspace in a massive line, dark and menacing. The Imperial fleet had already arrived, forming defensive positions. The humans joined them, smaller but agile, weaving between the larger warships. Admiral Voroth observed the humans carefully. Their ships were small, yes, but coordinated. Every movement precise, almost playful, yet deadly effective. "They are strange warriors," Thek muttered. "They do not fear, yet they are cautious." "Humans," Voroth corrected. "We have much to learn from them." The battle began. The Zerth opened fire with massive plasma waves and energy beams. Imperial ships returned fire, but their numbers were dwarfed by the sheer size of the Zerth fleet. Many vessels were damaged almost immediately. The human fleet, however, moved differently. They did not engage directly. Instead, they used micro-jumps and rapid maneuvers, slipping between fire arcs, confusing enemy targeting systems. Small bursts of energy struck weak points in Zerth ships, disabling engines without destroying the vessels entirely. "Captain Reed," Lowe shouted. "They're hitting the enemy's engines." "Keep moving," Reed ordered. "Don't stop. Make them chase." The humans' strategy was simple: disrupt, confuse, survive. The Zerth were powerful, but they had never faced enemies who laughed in the face of danger while moving unpredictably. Admiral Voroth watched from the Vraxian. Imperial ships fired continuously, yet many of the Zerth ships were now disabled or off balance thanks to the humans. "They're teaching them strategies," Wren whispered. "The humans are not just fighting. They're guiding our fleet." Voroth realized the truth. Humans were small, but they were leaders in courage and cunning. They had a way of making allies stronger, enemies weaker simply by existing with confidence. "Admiral," Thek growled, "we must strike harder." "No," Voroth said calmly. "We strike smart. Follow the humans." The Imperial fleet adjusted its movements, working in coordination with the human ships. Together, they created patterns of attack the Zerth had never seen. The smaller ships darted around massive capital ships, striking weak points. Imperial weapons, guided by human insights, landed more effectively. Hours passed. The Zerth fleet, though vast, began to falter. Their ships collided in chaos, some disabled by human strategy, some destroyed by Imperial fire. Even their commanders appeared confused by the unorthodox tactics. Captain Reed watched carefully. "They'll adapt eventually. Keep moving, keep laughing. Confidence is contagious." His crew smiled and nodded. They worked in harmony with humans and aliens alike, their energy high despite the danger. Finally, the Zerth, realizing they could not win against a coordinated force, began to retreat. Imperial ships fired a warning, and humans performed daring maneuvers to ensure none could follow. The battle ended, leaving the field littered with wreckage, but no major losses to the Alliance. For the first time, the Zeroth Empire and humanity had fought together. Admiral Vroth's eyes glimmered with newfound respect. He approached a communications link. "Captain Reed," he said, voice calm but firm. "Your species has changed how we fight. I do not understand everything you do, but I respect it," Reed smiled. "And we respect what you do, Admiral. Strength comes in many forms," Vroth paused. "You taught my fleet to fight with courage, not just weapons." Reed nodded. "Exactly. And courage is something no enemy can destroy. It is something that survives even when fleets fall." Vroth remained silent for a long moment. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new understanding between our peoples." "Perhaps," Reed said gently. In the aftermath, humans and the Zeroth Empire began sharing knowledge. Humans taught tactics, quick problem-solving, and adaptability. The Empire offered technology, resources, and starship engineering. Both learned from each other, yet one lesson stood out above all. Strength is not only measured in firepower, but in spirit. Admiral Vroth often remembered the first moment he saw humans laugh in the face of his fleet. At that moment he had expected fear. Instead he saw confidence. That laughter had been a seed, a sign that the galaxy was larger and stranger than the Empire had ever imagined. Captain Reed, meanwhile, looked back on the Zerth battle with quiet pride. His crew had survived, helped allies, and faced one of the greatest threats known to the galaxy, without losing humor, hope, or courage. "Laughter," he said softly to his crew, "is more than a sound. It is life itself." The alliance between humans and the Zeroth Empire grew, bringing stability to many star systems once threatened by chaos. Together they explored, negotiated, and sometimes fought side by side. And whenever a new species challenged their borders, they faced them not with fear but with strategy, courage, and laughter. Somewhere across the galaxy, stories spread of the humans, small in ships but mighty in spirit. They had laughed at empires, danced through fire, and reminded the universe that courage and humor could change everything. Admiral Vroth looked up at the stars one final time, and for the first time in his life he smiled fully, without armor or fear. "Perhaps," he whispered, "the galaxy is not ours to rule alone. Perhaps it is ours to share." Captain Reed aboard the Aurora smiled too. His crew gathered around, cheerful and alive, knowing that the stars were vast, the universe full of challenges, and that together, anything was possible. And somewhere across the infinite darkness, the laughter of humans echoed, a sound of hope, life, and unbreakable spirit. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Sometimes, the smallest laughter carries the greatest power.